Good morning, everybody. This is Judith Echo. You're listening to Mad Love. Let's get into it. So, I'm watching The Pitt on HBO. Several people recommended it to me. I finally started watching it. It's very good. It's very good. Very graphic. It's like ER on steroids. And it's kind of fun to see a grown Noah Wiley. I remember when he was the young doctor on ER, and like 30 years later, he's this haggard veteran. It's very cool. I'm enjoying the show. The graphic, man, I used to hate ER for this, but on premium TV, man, you could just see they just show everything. I have mastered, as soon as they say what it is and they cut, I close my eyes. I've seen way too many injuries. And yes, I'm a person who's seen many people get murdered or harmed in some way through my work. But I don't know, something about watching it on TV. It's very good, but it's almost too realistic. So, anyway, I'm enjoying it, and I notice one running line through the show is they'd all like to make more money. And I noticed as an administrative employee of a prosecutor's office, that was also a recurring theme. We just all wanted to make more money. In fact, a big part of why I had to leave is because they didn't want to compensate me fairly for the skills that I brought. And I knew that. And I leveraged that. And they, didn't agree. They didn't want to pay a non-attorney, what I was seeking, which is ridiculous because I brought a lot of value and a lot of professionalism. And I'm sure that they miss that, whether they'll admit it or not. But, I wasn't talking about the money I'm out here looking for now, which is several hundreds of thousands of dollars, jobs that I qualify for. I would never be able to get that amount. So I guess my point is, you hear these football salaries, and I like football. This is the first season I was pretty much not in love with it because the officiating was horrible and it just sort of felt like the games were rigged. But I've watched a lot of football since the 70s. And the thing about it is, back in the 70s, they did not make the money they make now. And so you have to think about it. If you're willing to pay somebody 4 years, $160 million to throw their body around a football field, or, 1 year contract for $12 million, or some of these huge numbers you see, Patrick Mahomes, $500 million over 10 years. I get it. They're very good at their jobs. I've never disputed that. Being able to throw a football and catch a football, protect a quarterback, sack a quarterback. Those are skills. I don't doubt it. What I don't understand is how they make so much more money than people who work in emergency departments or people who protect the public. You see what I'm saying? Like the disparity. So we always talk about income disparity, and that's a real thing. But what I don't understand is why there's so much industry income disparity issues. Like, if you can throw a baseball, why does that make it so you can earn $200 million? If you really break it down, what makes their salary is the attention they get from men, mostly men. Men pay other men, hundreds of millions of dollars because other men are sitting at home watching commercials and buying tickets, and they're heavily invested in these games, and they're just distractions, but they don't really bring value to society. I enjoy I mean, when the Cardinals were good, I've watched plenty of Cardinal baseball. I hope the DeWitts sell the team because they clearly aren't interested in it anymore. That's an aside. I've watched lots of Cardinal baseball. They're the only team I watch. I don't like baseball. I just like the Cardinals. And maybe when I get to Toronto, I'll be a Blue Jay fan. But, you know, I don't understand why athletes get to make all of the money, and you see how hard these people work in an emergency department. And I know that it's accurate, you know, and I know I've been in an emergency room. I've been in it. Well, when I was growing up, it was the emergency room. Now it's the emergency department. I've been in those spaces recently with my mom, you know, and I know my brother has had to sit in the emergency area for 24 hours before he could get a bed, for however many hours before he could get seen. I mean, these are very real issues. And I think hospitals have the same problems that movie studios have right now, which is the people who run the business are not medical people, and the people who run the business of film are not film people. They're not creatives, and maybe to our detriment as a society, we've just become too obsessed with making money. So then, if you go to a hospital and they're constantly ragging on you about your processing times and how much time you can spend with a patient and how many patients they expect you to see in a day and all that kind of stuff, that is wrong. That's the wrong language. And maybe, you know, hedge funds and all these mysterious people who buy these types of businesses to wring every single dollar out of it. Maybe hospitals shouldn't be a business. You know, maybe hospitals should just be a place for care, because I'm telling you right now, there's very little health and very little care going on. And they did a nice job on that show. And maybe Pittsburgh's a better city, or Pennsylvania's a better state. But when I had my dementia patient mom in the hospital, we left with no resources offered both times. They didn't offer any help. They didn't even let us talk to the social worker. I had to beg to talk to the social worker, and she did not offer any support or anything. I mean, she eventually was like, "Can we talk off the record?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "It's fucked up, I know." And I was like, "Thank God, because you're talking to me like I'm the crazy person that's asking all these, out of pocket questions." So they did offer the beleaguered caregiver on the Pitt some resources to help. They don't do that here, or at least they didn't do it for me. And I had to beg to talk to this lady, and all she could offer me was she could try to put my mom on Medicaid and put her in a facility, but she was like, "I can tell immediately that you'll say no to every facility I offer." Uh-oh. Oh, excuse me, guys. Sorry. And she was like, that was it. She was like, I could offer that, but your mom makes too much money, and every place that she could get into today, I can tell you would say no. And we were on the phone. So it's like, the Pitt, they offered that. They did not offer that in my real life. Twice I took my mom to the hospital. The only thing we left with the second time was hospice. And they almost didn't think I was serious about it. They were looking at me like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to give her a brain surgery?" I'm like, "She's 86. She'll be 87 in a month. I'm not giving my mom brain surgery. And she already has Alzheimer's. Why would I do that?" And I was like, "I think we're going to go with hospice." And they were like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "She's 87. Well, she was 86 when she hit her head. And I was like, "She's going to be 87. Why would I do that? Why would I give her surgery? That doesn't make any sense. She's had a good life." That's one thing I find frustrating on the show. I'll get back to the pay soon. I like the Pit. I like it a lot, but it is so disturbing to see so many people. There were adult children of an old guy, and he was dying, and they were willing to put him through all these difficult, terrible procedures to just try to keep him alive. But I'm like, look at him. He is dying, and he's already old. He's lived his life. And I was frustrated with the show, but I know that's a reality. And I don't understand. I don't understand why I'm so cool with, you know, the realities of these things. I'm telling you, I was fine with putting her in hospice. I was fine with my mom dying. I knew she was dying. I've known her my whole life. I could tell she wasn't healthy, and I could tell that she was declining. I'm not sure how you can not see those things and just be holding on to, like, I got to keep them alive. I'm not giving up on them. What are you talking about? And this man was old. And I was like, God, I know that's the reality. I know that happens in real life, but it's just super frustrating. Old people, it's almost elder abuse to be trying to keep these people alive. I think Joe Biden was suffering from elder abuse. I also think they were using stand-ins and doubles and people appearing to be him that weren't him. They should have used that person for the debate. But, that was elder abuse. Dianne Feinstein was being pushed into the vote in a wheelchair, and people having to tell her when to talk. That is elder abuse and ridiculous. And then that Mitch McConnell is old and freezing up, and like, what's wrong with him? Why are you all continuing to push him? And like, that's elder abuse. When you get to a certain age, it's okay to retire, and we can see you're in a diminished capacity, and it's okay to let you go. And I hope people get better at letting people go. I have no problem with saying goodbye to somebody over 80. I've seen health declines. I've seen health journeys that were not pretty to watch. And watching people suffer is horrible. Okay? I do feel sad when a child dies, and you should. If somebody's 18 and they die, that is horrendously sad. And I get your grief, and I get you hanging on. What I don't get is trying to hang on to somebody who's old and clearly sick. And for me, old, I use the word all the time, but really for me, over 80, that's a good run, especially if you're not healthy. Holding on, you've been sick for the last 40 years. Come on. What are we doing? Anyway, back to the price disparity, the salary discrepancies in industries. I don't understand that. I don't understand how hitting a baseball or catching a football can yield you hundreds of millions of dollars. And nurses, well, first of all, I think doctors have to spend so much on their education these days. It's not really as financially lucrative as it used to be. I mean, you really have to do some finagling to get comfortable. But I don't understand how doctors and nurses, and especially nurses, I think nurses are woefully underpaid. I don't understand how the people who really build a society and keep a society together make the least amount of money. Because I can tell you, anybody working for a government that isn't in the federal government illegally trading stocks, it should be illegal, they're not making very much money. Public service is cheap, and it is low paying, but it's the most needed. There are a lot of people who work very hard, and everybody in the criminal justice system is not corrupt. Are there corrupt judges? Are there corrupt people? Clearly there are, but there are a lot of hardworking, dedicated people who want to get justice for folks, who want to help victims, who want to speak for those who can't speak for themselves, and they do hard work every day, and they show up, and they don't get paid anywhere near what a football player would get paid, which makes you have to ask the question, if I am able to give you $150 million or $300 million or all these crazy numbers, how much money am I making? You got to be able to ask these owners, like, okay, because I've never met an owner of a business who pays employees more than they make. So how's this system even normal? And it's become so normalized, like people hear these giant numbers and they just don't think anything about it if you're a sports fan, but it's wrong. It's wrong. I just don't know how we justify the way we live. And we know these men in football are getting brutally damaged. They are getting brutalized. Their brains are getting destroyed. Their bodies are getting destroyed. And everybody's not a superstar. What if you're just the guy who is on the practice squad? You're still sustaining a lot of damage. Who's going to pay your medical bills? I mean, I just think so much in our society is wrong, and that's a big part of it, is what we value. You know, there's nothing a woman can do that would pay her similarly. Even in sports, women don't make as much money. Even Venus and Serena Williams, who were tennis for the last 20 years, they were the face of tennis. And they didn't make what the men made. And when is that going to stop? Why do men get to value their time and talents over women like that? And why is it so normal for us to just be like, okay, you know? It's just a strange world. There's so many weird things that we think are normal that aren't. And I don't even follow soccer, but those guys make astronomical amounts of money because their sport is actually global. And it's like, why? And I know I just laid it out. It's because men pay attention to it in droves, and then advertisers put their stuff in front of these men's eyeballs, and that's how they pay all these athletes so much money, because the attention of men. But, you know, generationally, I just don't see everybody staying as involved in sports. You know, I can see a lot of younger people don't even watch certain sports. So, I don't know. And it's less about sports and more about, why don't we pay people who actually impact society in real, viable ways more money? I'd be okay if nurses made $200,000 a year, wouldn't you? When you're actually in the hospital, it's the nurse that makes the experience. Why is there no value placed on that? Oh, it's because it's a female-dominated career. And almost you can feel the contempt of these elite people that have obviously been making all the policies. You can feel their contempt that they don't value people who work hard. They think we're suckers. And maybe we are. I worked my ass off for 7.5 years in a dirty office with dirty carpet, disgusting bathroom, no perks. I bought the coffee. I made the coffee for my part of the office. And, say what you want. It's not fair. And when you wake up and you realize you don't live in a meritocracy, it can hurt your feelings. It's not a meritocracy, because I guarantee you the hardest day in an emergency room, or the hardest day in a prosecutor's office, the emotional maturity, the output, the impact on people's actual lives is 100 times that of any sporting event. Any sporting event. And they make pennies on the dollar compared to athletes. It's a strange, strange world. And I look forward to seeing all that kind of bullshit reversed. I really do. There's somebody who can operate on your child's brain, and they don't make they do okay. Now, I'm not saying they don't make money, but they don't make what Patrick Mahomes makes. And why? Who came up with this system? It's fucked up, and I can't wait for it to be done. Have a great Wednesday.